Metal Slug.
Metal Slug is a run-and-gun, side-scrolling platform action shooter. It was released in 1996 and created by IREM, or IREM, a team that also made other quite similar games like In the Hunt and Gunforce. There are some bullet hell-like elements to the game, especially in later levels, in which screen space not taken up either by explosions, enemies, or ammo going your way can become scarce. It can prove challenging to find the nooks and crannies in which you can avoid being burned to a crisp, sliced in half, or generally burned to smithereens. The distinct graphical style of the game is one of the main reasons why it stands out from the crowded arcade run-and-gun games from the 90s. The extremely detailed characters, animations, foregrounds, backgrounds, and effects can sometimes be overwhelming to the point that while playing you might miss quite a bit of the finer details of what's going on the screen. It's one of those games that you will have a great time just watching someone else play, particularly if you've got the reflexes of an arthritic sloth and the hand-eye coordination of a baby like me. Over the course of the game, you will be able to pilot vehicles such as tanks currently on screen, pick up all sorts of power-ups for your different ammo types and weapons, but also use special attacks. In the case of the tank, using your heavy cannon. In the case of other weapons, well, using grenades. And that will complete the use of the 3 buttons used: jumping, attacking, and special attack. Over the course of the different stages, you'll see a lot of exquisite animated foregrounds, like in the waterfall you can see right here. Different set pieces, like bosses. Look at this mess of a boss. It's enormous. The detail on it is overwhelming to the point you're not even paying attention to much of it while trying to avoid all these bullets. And still, in the background, you can also see the animated waterfall feeding the foreground waterfall. And this is the sort of detail you can expect throughout. Quite magnificent to play and watch. Another aspect to take into account is the very, very well calibrated and tight controls. Whatever you input is smoothly and accurately translated into actions by your character. This makes the game very enjoyable to play, even if not necessarily easy to complete. It is certainly not due to any fault of the game itself, but rather a lack of skill on the player. The footage you're seeing is myself, and that is why it is extremely incompetent in terms of general handling of the bosses, different enemy types, and saving up on ammo for those oh-so-important boss battles. Though sometimes, even me, I can manage 1 or 2 good hits. Of particular note is also the rather anti-war, as you'll see the flower and a grave marker in the background there. And further along, especially in the end credits, in terms of anti-war imagery and a message overall. That is quite a contrast when compared to the seemingly gratuitous and over-the-top violence you can see on screen. but the cartoony style of the characters almost makes it a parody or a satire of the genre.
Rocket launcher.
You will find yourself fighting mega bosses, mobile, different types of attack patterns, different types of weapons. Each and every one will present a unique challenge. You will be seeing fantastic background into foreground animations and transitions like this. Overwhelming numbers of enemies, situations in which just move forward, don't try to kill everything you have on screen, might just be the right solution.
Mission set.
You'll be able to escape narrowly from being missiled to death, blown to smithereens by cannon emplacements, etc., etc. Like other Metal Slug games, the complete journey through will take you through 6 stages overall, each more difficult than the previous, obviously, but of a different style of either level design or graphical design in terms of the regions that are being visited. You're going to be visiting snow-covered regions, industrial settings, burnt down and destroyed cities, etc. Each has its own charm and particular interests, and also enemies and different tactics you'll have to adopt to manage to get through them. As I mentioned, the difficulty level does increase with each level, and even though you can enjoy stupendous transitions like this one, straight out of an Indiana Jones movie, you'll find yourself frequently having to adapt to all sorts of different enemies that have different attack patterns, that come in different style, waves, and directions. Every single encounter is something different from every other in the game. There's no such thing as repetitive gameplay or an overly long sequence that will somehow frustrate you for any other reason than being too darn difficult for you.
Heavy machine gun.
Continues galore. You will need as many as you can muster. Back in the arcade days, you'd be putting quite a penny into this machine, I think. Closing in on the final mission, you'll find yourself swamped with enemies. And the final encounter you're seeing here is no easy feat. Once you've spent your last few continues trying to defeat the final boss, you will be greeted with a rather over-the-top, as appropriately fitting as it is, death animation, a unique death animation, a glorious death animation. And with that done, a lovely series of scrolling vignettes for each of these stages you completed. A calming and soothing epilogue to your adventure. You will see just how much destruction and death you caused. How many people died. The horrors of war. An apt synthesis for what just occurred. A oh so enjoyable experience killing oh so many cartoonish sprites. But all that is good must come to an end eventually. And so does this game. Once you're done slaughtering half of humanity in the most over-the-top ways you can muster, you can then retire and go back to a peaceful life in civil society. Don't worry about the atrocities you just committed in cartoonish devilry. What's the worst that could happen? PTSD? Please, that only happens in movies like Full Metal Jacket. If you want to know more about the sequels to this game, please leave a comment down below. In all caps, of course, with at least one spelling mistake, and a minimum of 5 exclamation points, to which I will politely reply, please don't leave comments in all caps, because this here is a civilized society. An effing society where people don't cut ahead in line for the payphone when waiting to get into a Chinese restaurant. You better shape up, maggot, or I'll rip your head off and give you a new one. This is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine.